When the call for help goes out by a police officer, the world responds. This is Crime Watch.
Hello, I'm Chief Sinus, and welcome to Chief's Corner. Today we want to introduce you to our body-worn camera program. It's been in effect for the last 3 or 4 months, and it's something that the Buena Park Police Department wanted to do to build that trust in our communities. The body-worn camera program started with the support of our City Council. It was a program that we got approved by them last year. It's quite expensive. However, we felt it was necessary for our community and for our police department. The benefits of the body-worn camera are twofold. It really it's about transparency, and it's about being able to record events that occur during our routine and sometimes not routine encounters with the public. And it allows us as a police department to be able to see a portion of what happens. And the other side of that is people just behave better when they know that they're being recorded. And so we thought it would be a benefit to our police officers and also a benefit to the community and would assist us in reducing complaints and to maybe curb some behavior on how some people treat the police department and or their employees. So with me today is Lieutenant Frank Nunes. He is our training manager, our training lieutenant, and he is the one that kind of made sure that the program was successful. He was involved in the purchasing of the cameras and the implementation of the program here at the police department. So what I want to do is hand it over to Lieutenant Nunes and have him explain to you exactly what the camera does and how it operates and how it functions.
Thank you, Chief. As the Chief mentioned, the Buena Park Police Department does have body-worn cameras for all its uniformed personnel. Our policy clearly states that officers who take an enforcement capacity in the city of Buena Park shall wear a body-worn camera. As if you look at me in my uniform, you will see that about below my chest line, I have this pager-looking device. That is our body-worn camera. It is very simple to use. All our officers went through a training process, not only with the vendor, Axon, but with officers who were trained specifically on the use of the body-worn camera and how to capture evidence for future prosecution purposes. So when a police officer is about to take a specific enforcement action or contact a member of our community, he or she would simply reach over and press the device twice, and you will hear an audible beep, and it'll also vibrate, allowing the officer to know, and if the member of the community is there, to know that our camera is rolling. It captures audio and video of the incident. It won't stop recording until the officer presses the device for about 3 seconds, and that will terminate the video and audio portion. An important feature that these cameras do have is that there's a 30-second backup to them. So pre-incident, this camera is constantly recording. So therefore, before I hit the button, the video for the 30 seconds prior will be recorded as well. There will be no audio, but then we will be able to capture what the officer saw prior to his or her contact with a member of the community or the call for service that he or she is responding to. And that's basically it. The camera is very simple. At the end of the day, the officer will take his or her camera off, dock it into one of the many loading stations in the station, and it will upload into our evidence cloud. Also charging the battery, and the evidence that's captured during that officer's shift is automatically integrated with our CAD integration system. Basically, for every call for service that officer was on in his or her shift, the system knows, it's that smart, that that particular call belongs to that particular video, and that's how we tag all of our evidence. I know that there's a lot of concern about privacy, and our policy does cover that. And I'm talking about the privacy of the citizens. Say you have a victim of a violent crime who's at the hospital and doesn't want to be video recorded. The officer has the ability to take the body-worn camera off, place it down, and just capture the audio, because again, we want to capture the evidence as it happened, so there's no question later on to what the victim told us or what a witness may have said, but at the same time we want to protect their identity. So by doing so, we remove the video portion of this, but capture the audio, which would be compliant with our policy and shows compassion for our community member.
Lieutenant Newts, can you tell me what kind of feedback you're getting from the officers and from the community on our body-worn cameras?
Yes, sir. It's been accepted very well by our officers. Again, Buena Park's always been on the cutting edge as far as recording our contacts. We've had digital audio recording since 2005. Our police cars have had a dash-mounted video and audio since 2010. So this was the natural step in the evolution of capturing video and audio evidence. And so our officers are used to the technology and embrace the fact that now they have something that portrays what they're going through from their perspective. As far as the community, we've done community meetings, whether it be the Chiefs Advisory Board or other community groups, and they've asked about it, and they're happy too. They believe in transparency. They want to know what their police department is doing, and that they're reassured that 99% of the time we are doing what we're supposed to do, and now we have the video evidence to prove it.
Okay, thank you. And thank you for being here today, and we'll see you at the next Chief's Corner.
Hello and welcome to Crime Watch. I'm Jane Cameron with Sergeant Mike Levchick at the wheel. Yeah. We're in a residential area, and there's an incident or a call that came out that's actually quite interesting about somebody who comes to the door.
Yeah, actually, it came out as one of the residents in the neighborhood here called and said that there was somebody knocking on their door, asking them some kind of strange questions, and they were reportedly possibly with Edison and Company, the local power company, and they thought it was kind of weird, the questions that they were asking. So they called the police up, and they were concerned about it. So we're looking around for them right now.
Now, is there anything wrong with somebody like Edison coming to your door with questions?
Well, no, there isn't. I mean, as far as like you need a vending a permit and stuff like that if you're selling these types of things, but as far as Edison coming out and or a representative of Edison coming out and asking questions, normally they don't do that. That's the reason why it's kind of like a flag here. It's probably, in my guesstimation, I think it's probably somebody who's trying to sell something. Maybe not necessarily with Edison per se, but maybe they're saying, you could lower your Edison bill and stuff like that. So I'm thinking along the lines that they are probably a solicitor of sorts, and they're trying to drum up business.
Now, I've heard stories where somebody comes to your front door and gets your attention, then their partner goes in through the back and ends up burglarizing.
That happens more surprisingly often, and
really often.
Well, not necessarily. I'm going to tell you a personal story. Is that happened to my great grandfather, all 102 years old of him. Yeah, and it happened actually it was out in LA County, and this was a couple years back. But he got scammed by that exact type of a situation where he was distracted by the person at the front door, and he wasn't letting them in or anything like that at all. But his partner went around the back way and stole some stuff out of his one of his back rooms back there or something like that. But it was just that's a personal story. So when I said it happens more often than you think. It's not necessarily around here, but it does happen.
Well, fortunately we're a society that has some courtesy, and so if somebody comes to your door, your intention is not to be necessarily rude to them. But how do you handle somebody at the door and still make sure that your house is okay and you're not getting sucked into something?
Well, I mean, one of the easiest ways to do that is to make sure all of your doors and windows are locked. A lot of times people, when they're home, they think, well, I don't need to have my back door locked or my back windows shut up and all that kind of stuff. It's obviously that's where they probably are trying to get in if they're doing that whole confusing you thing or trying to distract you. However, I mean, obviously you don't want to be a prisoner in your own house, but it's just one of those things where, if you can take the extra precaution, keep the doors locked. There's no reason for them to be unlocked. I keep my back doors locked up all the time. It's just a matter of habit that we just get in to just lock the door whenever we go in or out. Secondly, don't engage people longer than you have to. I'm not interested, thank you, and you walk away and be done with it. Obviously, a salesperson might be persistent.
But you have the control. You can close the door.
Correct, exactly. You don't even need to open the door, or you can just talk through the window and say, "I'm not interested, thank you," and walk away, and let them still, chip away at the door there.
If they show an ID, it may not be a real ID, though.
Yeah, that is true. I mean, it's probably pretty easy to make up something that says I'm from Southern California, Edison, or from something like that. So, even so, you're not obligated to open up a door or a window for anybody that comes to your residence. I wouldn't. I don't care who they say they are and what time of the day it is. I don't want to be bothered by salespeople.
It sounds like a peephole is a real good idea.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Or a camera at the porch.
Or here's the way I look at it: is if I need Edison's services, or if I need solar panels or whatever it is, I'll go find my own. I don't need to have somebody come and tell me that I need to have solar panels. But again, another thing that's interesting too is that look, it's dark right now. It's evening time.
Yeah, no one should be out going door to door.
To me, it's just not the appropriate time or place to be out here. So, but that's like I said, it might be a legitimate person trying to sell a product of sorts. But then again, we don't know until we actually talk to these people.
Well, and it's good that they called up just to advise.
Oh, absolutely. Matter of fact, that's like we've talked about this before. That's sometimes how we catch our crooks, is that people are calling on situations or circumstances that just don't feel right. They don't know what's going on. Sometimes they turn out okay. Sometimes they're legitimate people. Sometimes they're not, and sometimes when we'll catch them walking down the street, and lo and behold, they've got warrants or burglary tools or something like that with them, or they're just up to no good, and that's how we catch them.
What are we heading to now?
Two of our officers were on a pedestrian stop, and they were about to arrest a guy for a warrant, and all of a sudden one of the officers got on the radio and said that the subject was fighting with them. So other officers are rolling over that way with their lights and sirens on right now. We're just going to head over that way to see how things are going.
Troops around to Los Rios and Commonwealth are units show to be north of 7th and south of Commonwealth.
You are clear on the right.
13, you're going to be able to see 31's vehicle. He's got his lights on. We're going to be just south of that on the west-hand side between the car and the couch.
In 1022 code 3. We got him pinned on the ground trying to get him in custody.
Copy 15, 1022, I need units responding code 3. Retail code 3.
doing okay, Mark? Obviously, everything is okay now.
Yeah, the when we finally got there, you saw there were a lot of police cars around. So obviously, when one of our officers yells for help, we're all rolling. Everybody's on that shift that's not doing anything. Even if they are doing something, they're going to drop what they're doing and go roll to help out. Because you just never know how those fights are going to turn out. And so what happened is that the guy he had a warrant and apparently didn't want to go to jail on his warrant. So as they were trying to take him into custody, a fight ensued. And but fortunately, in this situation here, the officers were able to basically subdue him fairly quickly. But that's when they got on the radio and says, "We need some more help." But so when the officers got there, obviously the only thing that had to be done was finally putting him in. They had him under control, the two officers, but just needed assistance in getting him handcuffed and all that kind of stuff. So. Nobody got hurt. The bad guy went to jail, so that's what counts. But again, when you hear those things come out on the radio, you don't know if he's in the fight for his life, those officers are in the fight for their life, or if it's just like he said, okay, I got this guy, but I need some help putting him into handcuffs. So obviously, we're not going to take the chance to think to ourselves, he's just struggling a little bit. We'll take our time to get there, and we'll get there when we get there.
Well, and the officer doesn't have the time to do all the explanation either.
Correct. Usually he'll be on the radio, asking for code 3 units or code 3 follow-up. And yeah, you're right. He doesn't have time to give a play-by-play. But I will say this though, that the other responding officers, as they got onto the scene, I'm not sure if we heard it when we were rolling. They were putting out updates saying that we have the guy under control, basically. However, he's still struggling. There's still a fight going on, because even though you might have the guy pinned down and plenty of officers there to be able to kind of help handle the situation, he may be still fighting. It's not like he's going to go, okay, I give up. He may still have some fight in him. So. But again, to credit the officers that were showing up, matter of fact, it was one of our senior corporals. He gets there and he's updating the supervisors that are rolling to this as well too. But again, obviously that takes down the excitement level, I guess, of it as far as officers rolling.
So everybody's safe though, including the person that got arrested.
Yeah, as far as I know, everybody is unhurt. They took the guy to jail, and I know our officers. That looks like they're doing okay, and they'll be back on the streets here in a little bit.
Well, as you can see, all the Halloween lights are on, but Halloween is over and done with.
Hard to believe how fast this month has gone, but it's. I think at the beginning of the last month, or this of October, we were over on the other corner over there talking about what's coming up, and now it's already done.
So not Scary Farm, everything went okay, no problem?
Yeah, everything went really smooth. They had a great turnout. They had well-behaved crowds for the most part. But no major issues. Nothing really went wrong, and as far as we know, it was a very successful haunt season this year.
I heard that the Goblins took over the police department on Halloween.
Yes, actually, we did have our third annual Cops and Goblins event on Halloween afternoon, and From what we were told, it was about 2,000 plus visitors that came through our little haunted maze and haunted house.
You let them on the second floor. That's restricted. You let those goblins up there.
Actually, it was a lot of fun. We had everything all decked out inside the police station, and everything went really smooth. And it's really becoming a great community event for everybody involved.
You were even dressed up too, and you weren't a police officer.
No, I was recruited to be the, I guess, like the evil doctor of sorts inside a staged operating room. The whole theme of the event was Twilight Zone, and so if we remember the one where they wake up, or the real pretty woman is in a land of very not so pretty people, and being not so pretty is the norm, but being pretty is not the norm. And so I was like one of the evil doctors inside this makeshift operating room. It was kind of fun. You had to be there, but it was fun.
Now the officers, they put together that whole maze as well, too.
The Carney brothers, two of our officers are
Twins.
Twins, yes. They do this every year, and they outdo themselves every year. And from what I was told, this year was no different. It was a phenomenal maze.
And City Hall was even open.
City Hall was participating in it as well. Matter of fact, they had some candy. They opened up their doors and gave out candy as well.
Okay, so there's a lot of work, a lot of effort to do this. Positive influence with the community?
Absolutely. Matter of fact, anytime the community can come in and we can interact with them like that, it is just such a positive reinforcement for our police department, and not just the police department, but for the whole city. And so that's why we love doing these types of events, and we look forward to doing many more of them in the years to come.
As long as you give away the candy, people will come.
Absolutely. And from what I was told, we gave away a lot of candy.
How often is it that officers actually pull over a car where there's a warrant or something where it's not just a normal traffic stop?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's hard to put a number on how many times that happens, but it happens quite frequently, I will say. Something that could start off as something as unassuming as a bad taillight or an expired registration, or just a simple vehicle code violation. You never know what you're going to get inside the car. Quite often, if it's someone who's been involved in the criminal element in the past, sometimes has warrants, and by running records checks on license plates, sometimes we can find out if somebody has a warrant ahead of time before we even stop the car. So that is possible as well too. But a lot of times the guys are out, the guys and the gals are out looking around for people to arrest, and they know somebody might have a warrant, or they run a plate and they find out there's a warrant attached to it. Then they'll make the stop and they'll arrest the person inside the car.
So in this case, somebody did have a warrant and they were arrested.
Yeah, the man had some traffic warrants for a few $1,000s. I'm not sure if he's going to be. He got taken into custody on his warrants. I'm not sure if it's one of those types of warrants where he needs to go see a judge tomorrow morning, or if it's one of those where we can cite him out from our jail.
Does the city get any of the money when you arrest somebody that has a warrant?
No.
Dang.
I mean, you could get somebody with $1 million, arrest warrant for homicide or something like that, and it's not to the point where he's going to be forking over $1 million to the city.
The city doesn't get a cut, or
no, they don't see a dime of that. So it could be, a $10 million warrant or a $1,000 warrant. We ain't going to see a dime of it.
Now there are situations where if you catch a criminal, you do get some of the revenue, or like if you stop a car with drugs on board, that type of
like
thing.
Like an asset forfeiture situation. Yeah, that is. It depends on the situation. I mean, obviously, It's usually with our narcotics bureaus or our narcotics task forces that do those big seizures, those type of things. If we stopped a car and there was $1 million in the trunk and some dope and stuff like that, then obviously it's a lot more than just a routine car stop. More than likely, the person would be arrested. All that stuff would be seized as evidence, not necessarily confiscated as far as an asset forfeiture. However, what we would do is we would contact our narcotics detectives that we have and the people who work in those task force, and then they would come in and do an investigation as well too. And it's a big drawn out process. It can't just go, look at this, what's this ours? We
Finders keepers.
Exactly. No, it certainly does not work that way. And you have to go through court procedures and all that kind of stuff too. So it's a pretty big process.
So in the meantime, it's just keeping the bad people, getting them to take care of their warrants.
Like I said, this guy has a $1,000 traffic warrant for not going to court or something like that. So this is pretty low profile.
Still bummer for him, though.
Still a bummer for him, yeah. But at the same time, it's one of those things where we do come across these quite often. But like I said, they're pretty routine.
Shame on them. It's all those people not taking care of their regular traffic tickets, and they go to warrant.
That's what happens when you don't take care of business.
If you have any questions about tonight's show, you can call the Buena Park Police Department at 562-3901 or check them out on the internet, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. You would have seen a lot of things that they're doing, like Tip a Cop and Cops and Goblins, and when there's a traffic accident that shuts down streets and intersections. I see it all.
It's all there.
So with Sergeant Mike Levchick, I'm Jane Cameron. Thanks for watching.